Absolute values. Again, just like the other videos, quick review, not going into deep details. Like it says, absolute values is about number of steps, a distance, a number of change of degrees, etc. If you're given a question that asks, how many steps between -7 to a +4? Your first thought would be to create the equation -7 to a +4, like we see here. The answer would result in a -3 because we take the difference of the 7 and the 4 to get 3 and assign a larger number, which is negative. But if we really think about it, -7 all the way to here, is -3 a reasonable answer of how many steps you're going to take? First of all, negative tells you're going this way. And then 3 steps in either direction will not take you to here. So, how can you unstep 3 steps? It's just not possible. So we're going to have to look at this another way. Again, the question states, how many steps between -7 and +4? If you're using Unravel, you should have already circled how many steps as being a key phrase. And then between -7 and 4 as being another key phrase. So, let's look at this. Again, if we have a -7 plus a +4, we already figured out that that's going to give us a -3. But we could take another way of doing this. We could come up here and go from -7 going toward a plus, a +4. We could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So now we see there's 11 steps. And that's a more reasonable answer, because it makes a lot more sense that it would take 11 steps to walk all the way down from there to there. But is it going to be easy to count? Right now it's easy to count if you're going from -7 to just a +4. But what if you're given numbers like going from -212 to a +87? Are you seriously going to draw and then count that out? Not me. I know when I create the equation -7 to a +4, I get the answer of -11. I know that counting us told us there was 11 steps. We need to find a better way. If there are 11 steps, we know the equation we create needs to equal 11. But again, -7 plus a +4 resulted in a -3. But we know this is wrong, so we've got to change it. So looking at this, and looking even in our past, or the people who did this, had to find a way to where this resulted in 11. Now they could see that 7 and 4, if you look at just the numbers, equaled 11, which is what the end result is. So they came up with a symbol called absolute value, and told us not to look at the signs. Just look at the numbers themselves. So this now becomes 7 plus 4. And we know it's 11 steps. So again, we know -7 plus a +4 is a -3. When we add the absolute value, we now look at -7 to a +4, changing the -7 to looking at just the 7. We now 7 plus 4 equals 11. Doing the same steps of looking at adding these absolute values, we can now do this as well, over here with our bigger number over here. So, let's do the math. We have -212 inside absolute value. So we know we're going to simply look at 212. We have all these symbols inside this absolute value. We ignore the signs. That leaves us just the number 87. And yes, we're going to add them. So that now tells us to get from -212 to a +87 would take us 299 steps. There might be a similar equation with temperatures. If a temperature reached 9 degrees and then dropped to -8, how many degrees did the temperature change? Again, when we look at our keywords, we have 9 degrees. Dropped to 8 degrees. And then the phrase, how many, which continues, how many degrees did it change? So, looking at that type of question, we are hopefully starting to realize we're going to need AbsoluteValue. So, we started off at positive 9. We ended at negative 8. So here's our equation. When we're going from a positive to a negative, we know we have a negative going on here. And our end result is also a negative. But we're not going to look at the signs because we're talking about how many steps. How many steps does it take to walk from each single one of these degrees? So we're going to look at the absolute values of these numbers. So, positive 9 plus a positive 8 gives us 17. So we know there are 17 steps. And if we go back and verify, which is also one of our unravel steps, we know to get to the 0, there are 9 steps to get from here to here. From 0 to a negative 8 is also 8 steps. And sure enough, when you add the two together, you get 17. You could also verify by actually counting, since the chart, the graph over here is not that big, like the negative 212 to the positive 87. Your equation might also look something like this. You started off on the 14th floor of the basement levels, which means you're down here at negative 14. And you worked hard to move yourself up to the 18th floor, which is up here, above ground, where you work today. How many floors did you move through? Now, yes, you can see to get from negative 14 to 0 took you 14 floors, and from 0 to there took you another 18 steps. So, equation form. Again, negative 14 to 0, and then 0 to 18. How many total steps did you go from here all the way to there? So, we look at our equation. We know we need to go back and add our absolute value signs because we're looking at a distance from here to here. When we do the math, it's going to result 8 plus 4 is 12, carry over my 1, which results in 32 floors. You moved by working really hard.